Rob, why is the virus spreading so rapidly in Latin American countries?
Well, part of the problem is poor healthcare. There's no question about that. And secondly, overcrowding. But the other thing to notice is that the figures that we're getting are most likely understated in any case, because the amount of testing that's being done, even in the richer countries of Latin America, is not very high. If you compare it, for instance, with the United States or with European countries or Russia and China, for instance. But nevertheless, we're still seeing this appalling spread of the coronavirus throughout the continent. The head of the Pan American Health Organization is now describing the spread as exponential, with the number of deaths in Brazil, Mexico, and Peru doubling every 3 weeks. That said, just to set this in a sort of a context, I suppose, it's worth noting that the figures are still lower than in Europe and the United States, both in terms of infections and the number of deaths. But, and this is what's most alarming, of the 183,000 new cases in the last 24 hours, 60% are from the Americas. And not only that, the numbers of infections and the number of deaths are climbing rapidly. In the countries we just spoke about, Mexico, Peru, and Brazil, between 250 and 1,000 deaths every single day, at a time when in Europe, like in France, for instance, down to 7 deaths at the weekend. So there clearly is a problem, and an even bigger problem, as I suggested, that is being portrayed by the governments in these countries because of the failure to do accurate testing.
And Brazil having the most cases, with many saying its government's populist politics as being the primary cause.
Yeah, I mean, again, the situation in Brazil is appalling. Over 50,000 deaths are second only to the United States. Same with the number of infections, over 1 million. It's a big population, don't forget, as well, over 200 million people. We need to bear that in mind. But the big anxiety is the growing numbers, that exponential growth that I was just talking about. And there are some experts suggesting that by August, there could be 125,000 deaths in Brazil, which would put it pretty close to the United States, with a smaller population than the United States. But part of the problem, as you pointed out, is in Brazil, with Bolsonaro refusing to really accept the danger of the coronavirus, describing it at the beginning as just a little cold, and who has argued consistently and continues to argue that the consequences are far worse than the coronavirus itself.
Rob Parsons there.